everyone, my name is Hannah. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about my 2021 reading goals and then a list of books that I want to get to this year. So let's first talk about my reading goals here and what I am setting my reading challenge at. So I've done this for the past 4 or 5 years. I'm setting my reading challenge at 52 books for this year. I do that every year because it's 1 book a week, and I know that I can do that even in years where I've had like a massive 6-month reading slump. I've still managed to read 52 books. So I know that I can do it, and I like to achieve my goal. I don't want to set it too out of reach. So 52 books, 1 book a week, 4 books a month. There you have it. My next reading goal is that I want to read my book of the month book pick every month that I get it. So every month they give you a list of 5 books to choose from. You pick one, they send it to you, you can add add-ons and stuff, but whatever book I pick for that month, I want to read in the month that I get it. Sometimes I'll pick the book and then I'll just let it sit there for too long and I'll start to lose interest in it. So as soon as I get it, I want to have it read in that month. I feel like that's when I'm the most interested in reading it, if that makes sense. My next reading goal is to reread a book every month, at least one every month. And last year I reread 25 books, so that was at least 2 a month, which I think is awesome. I love to reread books, and so there are so many books that I think about often and that I just really want to reread and re-experience that story and be with those characters again. There are just so many on my shelves that I want to reread that I start to kind of get sad that I'm not going to read them again. So if I have it set in my goal that I want to do a reread, then it kind of makes me feel better, I guess, that I'm not reading a book that I haven't read yet. And then my last goal is maybe a little lofty, but that is to have no more than 5 books on my physical TBR at any given time. So right now, currently, I have 5 books on my physical TBR, and I already know one of them I'm just like not in the mood to read right now, which is kind of sad, but I will get to it. It's just, if I'm only allowing 5 slots, I want them all to be something that I'm like excited to read right now. I want this to be a goal because in the past I've had anywhere between like 10 and 30 books, I would say. I've definitely never had more than 30 books on my physical TBR because I get kind of stressed out by all of the books on my physical TBR and like, oh my God, I'm not reading fast enough. I need to read these books faster because I have to get to these ones that I already have. And then I always would feel guilty if I buy a book and read that instead of the books that I already own. So it's just something that I'm trying to work on. Like if I buy a book and it's on my physical TBR, I want to read that book when I'm still excited about it and interested in it. And I feel like if I have more than 5 books on my physical TBR at a time, then I won't be able to read them fast enough. So anyways, yeah, I want to try to like read all of the books that I have, and then if I go buy more books, I want to read those when I'm excited about them. I don't want them to sit on my shelf for months and months or even years before I get to them. I don't know. Yeah, this goal is maybe going to be a little too difficult for me, but we'll see. I'm going to try it. We're going to try it. So no more than 5 books on my physical TBR. All right, now I want to talk about the 10 books that I want to make sure I read in 2021. And this is different than my most anticipated releases of 2021 because these are books that didn't necessarily come out this year or get released this year, but I've had my eye on them for a while and I just want to make sure that I get to them this year. So the first book on this list is Blood Witch by Susan Dennard. I have had this book since it was released in early 2019, I want to say. Let's check. 2019. I think it might have came out in like February of 2019. And I read Truth Witch and Wind Witch, which are the first 2 books. And then there's a novella in between. And I read that. But then I bought this and I didn't pick it up right away. And then it just sat there and sat there and sat there. And I started to forget what happened in the other books, that I was like, well, I need to reread the other books before I can read this one because I've forgotten so much of what's happened. So then I just never picked it up. But I know that I love this series and these characters. I just haven't done a reread of them. So I am definitely going to remedy that this year because I need to read this book. It's the longest book I've had on my TBR, like hands down. And I already have plans to pick up Truth Witch in January. That is my reread for the month. So I'm definitely going to reread those books so that I can get to this one and hopefully get to it before the next book is released, which I think comes out in May. It's called Witch Shadow. And I want to read this first so that I can pick that one up when it comes out and read that one right away so I don't forget anything. So this is the top of my list. This next book here has been on my TBR for quite a while, and I've had it for several months. I bought it right at the beginning of quarantine because I placed an order of like probably 10 books, eight or 10 books or something like that right at the beginning of quarantine because I thought everything was going to be shut down. They weren't going to be able to ship anything, and I just didn't want to not have books to read. So I placed that huge order, and this was one of the books in that order. It is The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. And I didn't read very much fantasy last year. I just wasn't really in the mood for it. So I never actually got to this one, but it's so stunning and it sounds so interesting. It's a standalone fantasy, but it is thick with 2 C's. It's huge, but it just sounds so interesting, and like, oh, there's a gorgeous map in it, and there's like, oh, it just looks so pretty. But yeah, this is one that I want to get to very soon. I didn't put it on my January TBR because there were so many other books that I wanted to get to first, but this is one of the ones that I'm going to pick up very early on in the year. So if I can't get to it in January, then I'll definitely be putting it on my February TBR. The next book I have here is A Man Called Uwe by Fredrik Backman. I read 3 Fredrik Backman books in 2020 and absolutely fell in love with his writing, and so I have wanted to pick up some of his backlist books, and this was the one that I think is like the most highly recommended out of all of them. But I do want to eventually get to all of them, but this one is definitely on the top of my list here. This is the one right now that I have on my physical TBR that I'm not super in the mood to read right now, and I don't want that to spoil this book for me. I'm really in the mood for fantasy, so those first 2 books are like right in my sweet spot. But as soon as I'm in the mood for like a contemporary, I'll be picking this one up right away because I am really excited to read it. I'm just not presently in the mood for it right now. I also want to pick up Blood and Honey by Shelby Marin. I don't know how to say her last name. I'm really sorry. But I read Serpent and Dove in 2019 and I really loved it. I wasn't a huge fan of the love interest, and I'm really still not, but the main character, I just love her. So I just really love her personality, and I really liked the writing style. It really reminded me of like the way Sarah J. Maas writes, and obviously she's my favorite author, so anything that feels that way is obviously going to be a book that I'm interested in. And it's about witches, which is something that I really like in books. But yeah, I just didn't pick up the sequel to it. I read it, Serpent and Dove, when it came out, and then we had to wait for the next book to be released, and I just haven't picked it up yet, and I'm really excited to pick that one up. That one's going to be a good one, I think. This next book is Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. This is on my January TBR already, so hopefully I can get to this and get this checked off my list right away in the year. But I have had this book for a while, and I keep going back and forth on if I want to unhaul it or if I want to keep it, and I just can't seem to get rid of it. It's like a barnacle. It's like sticking to my ship. I feel like the synopsis of it doesn't sound overly interesting to me, but I've seen so many people say that this book is incredible and they love it and it's a wonderful wintry fantasy, and I'm just so curious to know what it's about and know if I'll like it that I just can't let it go. So I need to get to this one, and I'm going to try to get to it right away in January and get this checked off my list. The next book I want to get to in 2021 is A Promised Land by Barack Obama. I read Becoming by Michelle Obama and absolutely loved that one. And I'm just very interested to read from Barack's, memoirs. And I want to get the audiobook for it because I'm pretty sure that he's the one that narrates it and I really just love his voice. But yeah, I'm super interested to read this one. I know Gabby from Gabby Reads has read it and really liked it. So this is one that I definitely want to get to this year. Speaking of Gabby, the next book on my list here is The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. So I don't know very much about this one at all. I know it's a contemporary set in Alaska. It's got like a little bit of romance, like a new adult romance thrown in there, and it's kind of like a hard-hitting book. That's all I know though, but I know a lot of people really like it, and I think the cover is gorgeous, and I'm just very interested to pick this book up when I'm in the mood for a contemporary, so that one's on my list. The next book on my 2021 TBR is Hood Feminism by Mickey Kendall, I think is how you say her first name. Mickey? I'm not sure. I'm sorry. But I want to get to this one again right away in January. I have a couple coworkers who are reading it right now. We have like a text group and they've already started it and have been sending some of their thoughts, and I haven't started it yet, but I'm really interested in this topic, so I can't wait to pick this one up, and it's definitely going to happen in 2021. The next book on my list here is Aurora Burning by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. It is the sequel to the Aurora Rising book that came out in 2019, which is this one, but Aurora Burning, I haven't read the sequel yet. I did really like Aurora Rising, not as much as I liked their Illuminae series, but I still really liked it. I'm not a big sci-fi person, but I feel like Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman write sci-fi in a way that I enjoy, so I definitely want to pick up the sequel. And then the last book I want to get to in 2021 is Mrs. Everything by Jennifer Weiner. I know that this is kind of a historical fiction book. I think it's set in the 70s. Growing up in 1950s Detroit, but it's like following them as adults, so I think it's set in the 70s if I'm remembering correctly, but it's following two sisters and it's basically talking about what a woman's place in this world should be and how these two sisters, they take different paths and they had different dreams and stuff like that. And I've heard that it's just a really hard-hitting feminist story, so I'm very, very intrigued to read this one. So yeah, those are all of my goals for 2021. Hopefully I can achieve all of them. There's just that one, the TBR one, that I'm just a little nervous about, but I think I can do it if I really set my mind to it. I gotta have willpower. I gotta believe. And then those are the books that I want to make sure that I get to this year. So thank you so much for watching this video. Comment down below what some of your reading goals are or what books you really want to make sure that you get to this year. And if you like this video, you can let me know by liking and subscribing down below. I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!